إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه وأعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرًا ونذيرًا بين يدي الساعة من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعص الله ورسوله فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. وبعد. My dear brothers, respected sisters, I remind you and myself of one of the most important aspects of this relationship that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is to have the taqwa of Allah azza wa jalla present in everything that we do and in every statement that we utter, with every action that we initiate, and with every reaction that comes as a response to anything that happens to us. Let's all remember the fear of Allah azza wa jalla. Let's all be mindful of Allah azza wa jalla and watch every action that we do and pay attention to every word that we utter. For everything that we do or say better be pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise, we are going to have to answer to that action and that statement on a day where everything will be in the open. On a day where you won't be able to hide your intentions, and you won't be able to hide your agenda, and you won't be able to conceal the purpose for which you do anything that you do. A day where you're going to be exposed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask you about everything that you did and everything that you said. So let's prepare ourselves for that day, and let's fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fear that stand that we will have before Allah. وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا لَا يَجْزِي وَالِدٌ عَنْ وَلَدِهِ. Fear that day. Brothers and sisters, someone asked me about my reaction to those phenomena that have become very common, especially here in California. What was my reaction to the so-called wildfires that we had and we continue to have? And in the news yesterday they were saying, again they were saying that probably today or tomorrow we're going to have another red flag warning in many of those areas. And while I was contemplating on a proper answer to that question, I get a phone call from Northern California that there was an earthquake that struck that area, 5.6. And it happened that my mother is visiting my sister in that area. So she calls, and I'm talking to her, trying to calm her down because she's panicking. She said, you guys seem to be so used to this, and I'm taking this lightly. She was terrified by the whole experience, which lasted a few seconds. But we are so used to it, so I didn't really think much of it. Then I had to sit with myself and think, and I said, wait a minute, what is happening to us? What is happening to us? Why are we losing our sensitivity? Why are we careless? Why are we acting in a fashion that reflects that we've got nothing to do with this trend of those kind of disasters being so repetitive, happening more frequently than ever before? A fire in the south, an earthquake in the north, and Allahu A'lam what is happening in between. Do we have anything to do with it? Then another question comes. While I was contemplating on that first question, does this have anything to do with global warming? So I said, oh, I would leave that to the scientists. Let them debate that whole issue. So a third question comes. Well, does Islam say anything about those phenomena or global warming? And that's when I said, yes. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran almost about every major problem and about any issue that we might be confronted with, sometimes directly and sometimes indirectly. But I said before, I quote a verse, let's look at the causes of global warming, and let's look at the proposed solutions for this problem that has been linked to all those phenomena that we've been having. A quick analysis to some of those root causes, as well as the suggested solutions for this problem, made me realize a pattern. That they were all, or most of them, especially the major ones, they were all behavioral. The causes were behavioral, and the solutions are behavioral. It all has to do with our behavior. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had prepared, and we do not deny anything that happened, Ice Ages and before that, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this planet go through all kinds of phases. And it has a long history, a history that, according to the Islamic tradition, that goes before Adam. This earth was created way before Adam. And on that issue, we have no problem with science. And earth went through all kinds of changes. But finally, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose for Adam to land on this planet and reside, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this earth come to a point where it was fully prepared in every way and fashion to accommodate Adam, his needs and the needs of his descendants. So this earth, planet Earth, went through all kinds of phases, all kinds of ages, and it finally came to a point where it was suitable to be a place, qarar, for human beings. And the responsibility of taking care of it was handed over to Adam and his children. That is us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us what it takes to maintain this planet, and what it takes to take advantage of this opportunity that we have, and warned us of the things that might cause the destruction of this planet, and warned us of the type of behavior that we should avoid. So now, a quick analysis of what we have done over the ages we violated Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's instructions, and we violated Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's laws. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making us get a taste of some of the consequences of our actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Rum, and this surah is full of amazing lessons and signs, like all of the surahs of the Quran. And many of those lessons are very relevant to what we are dealing with. Verse 41 in particular, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ظَهَرَ الْفَسَادُ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. Destruction, disaster has spread throughout land and sea. Scholars of tafsir, when they try to explain what this verse or this word means, fasad, they said this is a reference to those so-called natural disasters. And I'm not talking about contemporary scholars, I'm talking about scholars 1,000 years ago. Hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, they gave such examples. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, this has appeared, ظهر, it has become so apparent. Not occasional, not once in, no, it has become so, and it spreads out. So disasters have spread out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر, on land as well as sea. Why? بِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِي النَّاسِ, because of that which the hands of men have earned. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, way before our contemporary scientists basically determined that it is all behavior. It is what we have earned, what we have done. It's the way we go about our affairs that caused all of this. Why, O Allah? لِيُذِيقَهُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا. What is the purpose of this? Why did Allah make us suffer some of the consequences of our actions? لِيُذِيقَهُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا, to let us get a taste of what we have done, so that He would let them get a taste of some of what they have done. And if Allah was, as Aisha said, وَيَعْفُوا عَنْ كَثِيرٍ, if Allah was to hold us accountable and punish us for every little thing that we did, forget about the little things. If Allah was to punish us for all the major things that we have done, He would have wiped us out. مَا تَرَكَ عَلَى ظَهْرِهَا مِنْ دَابَّةٍ. None would have been existent by now. And if Allah was to hasten the punishment, we would have been destroyed for the kinds of things and actions we engage in. But why? What is the ultimate purpose of this? Allah wants to punish us? Then we should be punished for everything. No. This is just a reminder. Because the ultimate purpose of this, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is known for His mercy and His kindness, is لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, that they might return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They might revert back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They might turn around and blame themselves and take responsibility for their actions and shape up. They might turn around and look at themselves and say, I am responsible for this. How can I fix it? Now we have people suggesting that the way to fix this is to change our behavior, change our habits, conserve, be more considerate, be sensitive, don't be wasteful. Well, hasn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in His messages, in His books, through His prophets, and through those who carry the legacy of the prophets, hasn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that? لا تسرفوا وكلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا. Eat and drink, but do not be wasteful. Do not exaggerate. Do not exploit. Do not abuse. Appreciate what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. In order for all of this, brothers and sisters, to make sense, before we start becoming paranoid about coming up with some of those changes, something has to change, and that is our mindset. And that mindset will not change until we come to a realization that we are, in a way, responsible, directly or indirectly, and our actions count in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So any form of injustice or wrongdoing that you believe you're part of has to come to an end. Any suffering or any pain that you're inflicting on others, if you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not watching, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not holding you accountable for it, you're wrong. That has to come to an end. I say this and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make you and I of those who listen and follow the best of what they listen to. قولوا هذا القول واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يغفر لكم. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى وبعد. It was reported that any time the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saw dark clouds coming, a storm, he used to have the opposite reaction of what most people used to have. Most people, when they see dark clouds, they say, oh, it's about to rain. We're going to have some rain. And they get excited. Farmers are very cheerful. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it was reported that he would get nervous and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this a blessing and to make this storm a source or a cause of some of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come upon them, and not the opposite. Remembering what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala related in the Quran of how when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished some of the previous nations, some of those ancient civilizations, how when the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which they have asked for, when it came approaching them, they thought it was just another rain. It's just another storm. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to them, no. The reality of this storm is that it will come and destroy you and destroy everything that you have built because of what you have done. But they couldn't hear the answer. It was hidden because they were not aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were not mindful of the signs of Allah. So every time the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam sees anything similar to that, he remembers those verses in the Quran. So he would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let it pass peacefully. Allahumma sallim, Allahumma sallim. Now you compare that to how we react to those incidents and events. We have become totally desensitized. We have become totally desensitized, which is an indication that we're not even aware of our own wrongdoing. We don't think that we have anything to do with this in any way or fashion. We're not taking responsibility. And this is where we have to start, by taking responsibility for our own actions and do something about it. Because now, not only does it affect our spiritual well-being, those sins, this kind of destructive behavior doesn't only threaten our spiritual well-being, but brothers and sisters, now it is actually threatening our very existence and our lives. So this is a taste. Now people are turning and saying, what have we done wrong? What can we fix? So brothers and sisters, let's take responsibility. Let's take responsibility for our actions, and let's repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And let's be proactive and do something that counts. Inshallah, in the coming khutbahs, we will be talking about type of habits that we can adopt to be more effective, types of habits that will please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But none of those habits will mean anything if they're merely words that are spoken in a khutbah, but they're not implied, or they're not applied by those who say them and those who hear them. So inshallah Azza wa Jal, we are approaching a period that is very critical, and we are making history. Brothers and sisters, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity that we have to take advantage of. Brothers and sisters, I would like to bring to your attention the fact that we need to be a little more involved in the affairs of our community, at the communal level as well as the individual level. And I will give you an example of how not being involved and engaged could actually have serious consequences. Last week, actually I believe that today they're going to have the janazah prayer for the brother who's passed away and whose body is not even present anymore. And I had vowed to bring this to your attention, because this is what happens in communities where there is no communication and there is no involvement, and people are not taking responsibility, people don't have connection. And as Brother Sharif alluded at one point, where people have superficial, shallow relationships, when Islam and the principles of this great religion of ours are not present in our behavior pattern, it's not present in our habits and the way we carry ourselves. This brother of ours was cremated, and his body was turned into ashes. That's what cremation means. He was cremated, and his body remained in the morgue for almost 10 days. It took about 5 to 7 days for the Muslims to even find out about that. This tells you of the condition of our communities. This is just an example of the so many examples and so many other areas and aspects of life that we have to deal with. So how are we going to change this? If we don't come together, help one another, if we don't take responsibility, if we're not involved, if we're not proactive, how any of these things are going to be eliminated? Another point that I would like to bring up is that we have all kinds of opportunities and programs that are being offered now. And 2008 we also have new programs coming up. And unless people come and participate and they take part of it, it's not going to, we won't be able to maintain them. Right? One of those projects that we have is a Quran class. We have a Quran class here. More information is available in the office and outside, inshallah. So sign up for it, sign up your children for it, and take advantage of it. Because one of those solutions, one of those ways out of this mess that we're in, is to go back to the source of guidance, which is the Book of Allah. So this class is being offered, so take advantage of it. Finally, brothers and sisters, inshallah, very soon, we're going to call upon you to become a little more involved and active. Our activities have resumed in the masjid. Friday night program and other activities have resumed after Ramadan. And one sad observation that many of the volunteers made is that we don't have the same amount of excitement and the same amount of involvement that we had in the month of Ramadan. We have talked about the importance of maintaining the spirit of Ramadan, and the importance of maintaining our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inside Ramadan and outside Ramadan. And I would like to also not forget to remind you, inshallah, if you have not fasted the 6 days of Shawwal, you have about maybe 10 days, or a little less than that, actually 9 days before the end of this month of Shawwal. Actually, I take it back, maybe it's next Saturday could be the last day of Shawwal, or it could be the first day of Dhul Qa'dah. So you have until next Friday. So if you haven't finished your 6 days of Shawwal, or if you have a few days left, finish them. Fast 6 days of Shawwal, for the Prophet ﷺ said that whosoever fasts the month of Ramadan and follows it with 6 days of Shawwal, it is as if he has fasted the whole year. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you and I the inspiration and the energy and the strength to overcome our weaknesses and our shortcomings and make us of those who listen and follow the best of what they listen to. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله العظيم الجليل يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم. أيها الإخوة، ذكرنا في هذه الخطبة أن للذنوب والمعاصي آثار، وهذه الآثار ظاهرة وواضحة، والمخرج من أن يعاقب الإنسان على هذه الذنوب والمعاصي هو في التوبة إلى الله عز وجل والإنابة إليه. والتوبة لا تكون إلا إذا اعترف العبد بظلمه وبخطئه وبمعاصيه وأقبل على الله عز وجل. فأوصيكم ونفسي بالتوبة والإنابة والرجوع إلى الله عز وجل. عسى الله عز وجل أن يرفع عنا مقته وغضبه. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا واخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا إننا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم إننا ظلمنا أنفسنا ظلما كثيرا ولا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت فاغفر لنا مغفرة من عندك وارحمنا إنك أنت الغفور الرحيم. اللهم إنا نسألك فعل الخيرات وترك المنكرات وحب المساكين وأن تغفر لنا وترحمنا، وإذا أردت بقوم سوءا أو فتنة فاقبضنا إليك غير مفتونين. اللهم أصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا، وأصلح لنا دنيانا التي فيها معاشنا، وأصلح لنا آخرتنا التي إليها معادنا، واجعل الحياة زيادة لنا في كل خير، واجعل الموت راحة لنا من كل شر. اللهم إنا نسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والسلامة من كل إثم والغنيمة من كل بر والفوز بالجنة والنجاة من النار. عباد الله، أمركم الله عز وجل في القرآن بأن تصلوا على رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم، فقال تعالى مخبرا وآمرا إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وعظم على إمامنا وسيدنا وقائدنا وقدوتنا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أقول هذا القول وأسأل الله عز وجل لي ولكم المغفرة وأقم الصلاة. It all has to do with our behavior. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had prepared, and we do not deny anything that happened, Ice Ages and before that, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this planet go through all kinds of phases. And it has a long history, a history that, according to the Islamic tradition, that goes before Adam. This earth was created way before Adam. And on that issue, we have no problem with science. And earth went through all kinds of changes. But finally, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose for Adam to land on this planet and reside, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this earth come to a point where it was fully prepared in every way and fashion to accommodate Adam, his needs and the needs of his descendants. So this earth, planet Earth, went through all kinds of phases, all kinds of ages, and it finally came to a point where it was suitable to be a place, qarar, for human beings. And the responsibility of taking care of it was handed over to Adam and his children. That is us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us what it takes to maintain this planet. and what it takes to take advantage of this opportunity that we have, and warned us of the things that might cause the destruction of this planet, and warned us of the type of behavior that we should avoid. So now, a quick analysis of what we have done over the ages. We violated Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's instructions, and we violated Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's laws. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making us get a taste of some of the consequences of our actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Rum, and this surah is full of amazing lessons and signs, like all of the surahs of the Quran. And many of those lessons are very relevant to what we are dealing with. Verse 41 in particular, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ظَهَرَ الْفَسَادُ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. Destruction, disaster has spread throughout land and sea. Scholars of tafsir, when they try to explain what this verse or this word means, fasad, they said this is a reference to those so-called natural disasters. And I'm not talking about contemporary scholars, I'm talking about scholars 1,000 years ago. Hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, they gave such examples. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, this has appeared, ظهر, it has become so apparent. Not occasional, not once in a, no, it has become so, and it spreads out. So disasters have spread out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ظَهَرَ الْفَسَادُ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ, on land as well as sea. Why? بِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِي النَّاسِ, because of that which the hands of men have earned. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, way before our contemporary scientists basically determined that it is all behavioral. It is what we have earned, what we have done. It's the way we go about our affairs that caused all of this. Why, O Allah? لِيُذِيقَهُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا. What is the purpose of this? Why did Allah make us suffer some of the consequences of our actions? لِيُذِيقَهُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا, to let us get a taste of what we have done, so that He would let them get a taste of some ba'd of what they have done. And if Allah was, as Aisha said, وَيَعْفُوا عَنْ كَثِيرٍ, if Allah was to hold us accountable and punish us for every little thing that we did, forget about the little things. If Allah was to punish us for all the major things that we have done, He would have wiped us out. مَا تَرَكَ عَلَى ظَهْرِهَا مِنْ دَابَّةٍ. None would have been existent by now. And if Allah was to hasten the punishment, we would have been destroyed for the kinds of things and actions we engage in. But why? What is the ultimate purpose of this? Allah wants to punish us? Then we should be punished for everything. No. This is just a reminder, because the ultimate purpose of this from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is known for His mercy and His kindness, is لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, that they might return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They might revert back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They might turn around and blame themselves and take responsibility for their actions and shape up. They might turn around and look at themselves and say, I am responsible for this. How can I fix it? Now we have people suggesting that the way to fix this is to change our behavior, change our habits, conserve, be more considerate, be sensitive, don't be wasteful. Well, hasn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in His messages, in His books, through His prophets, and through those who carry the legacy of the prophets, hasn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that? لا تسرفوا وكلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا. Eat and drink, but do not be wasteful. Do not exaggerate. Do not exploit. Do not abuse. Appreciate what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. In order for all of this, brothers and sisters, to make sense, before we start becoming paranoid about coming up with some of those changes, something has to change, and that is our mindset. And that mindset will not change until we come to a realization that we are, in a way, responsible, directly or indirectly, and our actions count in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So any form of injustice or wrongdoing that you believe you're part of has to come to an end. Any suffering or any pain that you're inflicting on others, if you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not watching, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not holding you accountable for it, you're wrong. That has to come to an end. I say this and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make you and I of those who listen and follow the best of what they listen to. قولوا هذا القول واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يغفر لكم. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى وبعد. It was reported that any time the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saw dark clouds coming, a storm, he used to have the opposite reaction of what most people used to have. Most people, when they see dark clouds, they say, oh, it's about to rain. We're going to have some rain. And they get excited. Farmers are very cheerful. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it was reported that he would get nervous and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this a blessing and to make this storm a source or a cause of some of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come upon them, and not the opposite. Remembering what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala related in the Quran of how when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished some of the previous nations, some of those ancient civilizations, how when the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which they have asked for, when it came approaching them, they thought it was just another rain. It's just another storm. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to them, no. The reality of this storm is that it will come and destroy you and destroy everything that you have built because of what you have done. But they couldn't hear the answer. It was hidden because they were not aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were not mindful of the signs of Allah. So every time the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam sees anything similar to that, he remembers those verses in the Quran. So he would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let it pass peacefully. Allahumma sallim, Allahumma sallim. Now you compare that to how we react to those incidents and events. We have become totally desensitized. We have become totally desensitized, which is an indication that we're not even aware of our own wrongdoing. We don't think that we have anything to do with this in any way or fashion. We're not taking responsibility. And this is where we have to start, by taking responsibility for our own actions and do something about it. Because now, not only does it affect our spiritual well-being, those sins, this kind of destructive behavior doesn't only threaten our spiritual well-being, but brothers and sisters, now it is actually threatening our very existence and our lives. So this is a taste. Now people are turning and saying, what have we done wrong? What can we fix? So brothers and sisters, let's take responsibility. Let's take responsibility for our actions, and let's repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And let's be proactive and do something that counts. Inshallah, in the coming khutbahs, we will be talking about type of habits that we can adopt to be more effective, types of habits that will please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But none of those habits will mean anything if they're merely words that are spoken in a khutbah, but they're not implied, or they're not applied by those who say them and those who hear them. So inshallah azza wa jal, we are approaching a period that is very critical, and we are making history. Brothers and sisters, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity that we have to take advantage of. Brothers and sisters, I would like to bring to your attention the fact that we need to be a little more involved in the affairs of our community, at the communal level as well as the individual level. And I'll give you an example of how not being involved and engaged could actually have serious consequences. Last week, actually I believe that today they're going to have the janazah prayer for the brother who's passed away and whose body is not even present anymore. And I had vowed to bring this to your attention, because this is what happens in communities where there is no communication and there is no involvement, and people are not taking responsibility, people don't have connection. And as Brother Sharif alluded at one point, where people have superficial, shallow relationships, when Islam and the principles of this great religion of ours are not present in our behavior pattern, it's not present in our habits and the way we carry ourselves. This brother of ours was cremated, and his body was turned into ashes. That's what cremation means. He was cremated, and his body remained in the morgue for almost 10 days. It took about 5 to 7 days for the Muslims to even find out about that. This tells you of the condition of our communities. This is just an example of the so many examples and so many other areas and aspects of life that we have to deal with. So how are we going to change this? If we don't come together, help one another, if we don't take responsibility, if we're not involved, if we're not proactive, how any of these things are going to be eliminated? Another point that I would like to bring up is that we have all kinds of opportunities and programs that are being offered now. And 2008 we also have new programs coming up. And unless people come and participate and they take part of it, it's not going to, we won't be able to maintain them. Right? One of those projects that we have is a Quran class. We have a Quran class here. More information is available in the office and outside, inshallah. So sign up for it, sign up your children for it, and take advantage of it. Because one of those solutions, one of those ways out of this mess that we're in, is to go back to the source of guidance, which is the Book of Allah. So this class is being offered, so take advantage of it. Finally, brothers and sisters, inshallah, very soon, we're going to call upon you to become a little more involved and active. Our activities have resumed in the masjid. Friday night program and other activities have resumed after Ramadan. And one sad observation that many of the volunteers made is that we don't have the same amount of excitement, the same amount of involvement that we had in the month of Ramadan. We have talked about the importance of maintaining the spirit of Ramadan, and the importance of maintaining our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inside Ramadan and outside Ramadan. And I would like to also not forget to remind you, inshallah, if you have not fasted the 6 days of Shawwal, you have about maybe 10 days, or a little less than that, actually 9 days before the end of this month of Shawwal. Actually, I take it back, maybe it's next Saturday could be the last day of Shawwal, or it could be the first day of Dhul Qa'dah. So you have until next Friday. So if you haven't finished your 6 days of Shawwal, or if you have a few days left, finish them. Fast 6 days of Shawwal, for the Prophet ﷺ said that whosoever fasts the month of Ramadan and follows it with 6 days of Shawwal, it is as if he has fasted the whole year. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you and I the inspiration and the energy and the strength to overcome our weaknesses and our shortcomings, and make us of those who listen and follow the best of what they listen to. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم الجليل يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم. أيها الإخوة، ذكرنا في هذه الخطبة أن للذنوب والمعاصي آثار، وهذه الآثار ظاهرة وواضحة، والمخرج من أن يعاقب الإنسان على هذه الذنوب والمعاصي هو في التوبة إلى الله عز وجل والإنابة إليه. والتوبة لا تكون إلا إذا اعترف العبد بظلمه وبخطئه وبمعاصيه وأقبل على الله عز وجل. فأوصيكم ونفسي بالتوبة والإنابة والرجوع إلى الله عز وجل. عسى الله عز وجل أن يرفع عنا مقته وغضبه. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا واخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا إننا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم إننا ظلمنا أنفسنا ظلما كثيرا ولا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت فاغفر لنا مغفرة من عندك وارحمنا إنك أنت الغفور الرحيم. اللهم إنا نسألك فعل الخيرات وترك المنكرات وحب المساكين، وأن تغفر لنا وترحمنا، وإذا أردت بقوم سوءا أو فتنة فاقبضنا إليك غير مفتونين. اللهم أصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا، وأصلح لنا دنيانا التي فيها معاشنا، وأصلح لنا آخرتنا التي إليها معادنا، واجعل الحياة زيادة لنا في كل خير، واجعل الموت راحة لنا من كل شر. اللهم إنا نسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والسلامة من كل إثم والغنيمة من كل بر والفوز بالجنة والنجاة من النار. عباد الله، أمركم الله عز وجل في القرآن بأن تصلوا على رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم، فقال تعالى مخبرا وآمرا: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وعظم على إمامنا وسيدنا وقائدنا وقدوتنا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أقول هذا القول وأسأل الله عز وجل لي ولكم المغفرة، وأقم الصلاة.